Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Life Studied, your hopefully favorite figure drawing podcast, where a couple of friends get together and talk art while drawing. I'm here with my good friend Mairin-taj. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good. Mairin-taj is a professional artist and model, and I am a professional artist, I guess. My name is Mike Hawthorne. We get together and try to make one of these a month.
Yeah.
And Mairin-taj poses while I draw, and then we talk about some art subject that's, in this case, kind of bugging us. But you know, they tend to be nice, positive conversations. We will try to keep from complaining. Although this is one of those ones that very easily can descend into a rant for me.
Yes. Likewise, we'll have to check ourselves.
Yeah. So anyway, how are you? Everything good?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm holding in.
Awesome. So the Olympics just wrapped up.
Yeah, I didn't watch them. I
Me
meant
neither.
to, and then I forgot.
Yeah. No, I had no interest in it. I don't know why. I've never been a big Olympics dude. So.
Yeah.
But there's always a lot of talk about the opening and closing ceremonies, and in this case, it's in France. So
I don't think I've ever seen that.
really,
No.
yeah.
I like the football.
You like football?
Yeah.
Wait, actual football or like
Proper football, not
proper
American
football?
stuff.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
My boy's in Greece right now, and he's desperate. One of his favorite teams is in Athens,
Oh, nice.
and he's desperate to try to go see a game.
Aw.
But it's been tricky getting tickets.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is during the closing. Well, people were upset with the opening ceremony because I think the imagery was misunderstood in some cases. What some folks saw as like an anti-religious bias was sometimes just pre-Christian artwork or inspirations, and
Yeah.
which hopefully is not a surprise to you that it's a big part of Western culture. That art was made before Christianity.
Yeah. Right.
But I'm surprised how often folks they think of art as only having been what they saw in church, I guess. So during the closing ceremony, I saw there was a viral tweet of somebody, or maybe it was more than one person, complaining that they had an angel who they had cut off the head and arms off of, and isn't that crazy? Look what they did to this angel. It's part of the closing ceremony. And the second I read it, I thought that's the Nike of Samuel 3. It's like it's not just an angel, it has to be.
Yeah.
So of course I looked, and that's what it was. And if you're not familiar, it's Nike of Samuel 3. So I won't spell that because I'm not that smart. But it's in the Louvre. It's my wife's from Greece, so this is a point of contention. All the Greek art that's been stolen and then, recovered. Quotations. And saved, and then kept away. The Greeks have been trying to get this thing back forever. It's been in France since like 1880 something.
Yeah. Of course.
So it's in the Louvre. It's a winged victory. Only it's very old, so the head and arms have been chopped off. There's some 3D imagery to show what it would have looked like. She had her arm out. She was holding kind of I don't remember what it's called, that long horn.
Yeah,
thing.
right. Horn of victory or whatever.
Yeah. So those are long gone.
Yeah. Not because they were chopped off, but they fell.
Yeah, just getting broken off. There's also the reason, I won't get into it too much, but there's a lot of old Greek art that's messed up because when the Turks, the Ottoman Empire took over Greece, sometimes things just got blowed up. Anyway, the complaint I had was that these folks, despite being in Western culture, were so unaware of this Western art that they took offense to something that wasn't at all what they thought it was.
Yeah.
And so there was a part of me that was kind of surprised, which I guess I shouldn't be. People know what cupids are. I guess those are associated with angels also now.
They have been co-opted by
Bummer. Okay.
by the church.
Yes, I guess. I don't know what to make of that, I guess. So unlike most of our subjects, I usually bring up something that I want to talk about in terms of figure drawing.
Yeah.
I guess this one is more of a like, what the hell has gone wrong, where people living in a culture don't recognize art from their own culture.
Ooh, that's a big question.
Yeah.
That is a big what the hell, especially for us artists.
Yeah,
Figurative artists
yeah.
too.
And I hate to say it, I'm an American, was born here.
Yeah.
It's us. Like, Americans are kind of terrible about recognizing art and their own art history. Even though it's stuff they use. I mean, like, I'm almost positive that whoever wrote this tweet was probably wearing Nikes. But the only iconography they can associate with that is, the Jumpman from the Jordan shoes or something.
Yeah.
And the swoosh.
Right.
So,
People don't know the history to the history.
yes.
Even,
Yes.
or like to your point that there are worldwide cultures and history and artwork way before Christianity. For example.
Yes. And stuff that we have co-opted
Yeah.
or used. I mean,
Yeah.
so
Well,
yeah.
I mean, even the Romans themselves, they were culture borrowers. Like,
Yeah.
They took other people's stuff and was like, we like this now.
Oh God, yes.
And that's been handed down through Christianity and all other forms of culture
Yeah.
and thinking.
Yeah, you want to talk about fanboys? Those guys.
Yeah.
Did we set an alarm?
It's not mine.
It's
It's coming from over there. Is it the fan?
I don't know. Forgive me, guys. Turn it off. I don't know.
Oh, maybe it was the phone over there.
Oh, maybe.
Okay.
We are in. I should probably take care of some business. So we're recording in Curio. It's a art supply and gallery store here in downtown Lancaster, PA.
Yeah.
And they are amazing. It's run by a couple that are both artists. So if you're in the area, Mairin-taj like to tell people, come for the art supplies and stay to eat, because there's lots of restaurants in the area. It's just a great store.
Yeah.
The space is amazing. They always have an art show going. And it's nice to buy art supplies from artists because they can guide you versus going at, Michael's or something and there's some high school kid telling you, I don't know, but it's $6.50. Like,
Right.
They don't care.
Right.
So,
And they have a space in the back for lectures and classes and
podcasts now.
podcasts.
Yeah, so they're letting us record. You can kind of see over to the side here, there's a still life setup. They do demos, they do some figure drawings, some still life drawing. They have a sketchbook club. So it's a very cool place. If you're in the area, please come by. Or just email them and tell them they're cool for supporting the show.
Yes, we love hearing from you when
Yeah,
we can.
yeah.
That's great.
All right, so we probably should get to drawing and then we'll keep complaining about art.
2 minutes?
Yeah,
Sound
whatever you're
good?
ready for.
Okay. So, like, the theme here is, I guess, the lack of education in the art.
Yeah, I guess.
In art in the population.
Right, and maybe it's to make it more apropos of like the actual show. Should everybody incorporate this in their education? I've mentioned to you about having an art professor who had said, and I don't know if this is accurate, but he said how in the English tradition, these students would often have to carry watercolor sets, and they would be taught to do kind of rudimentary watercolors for the sake of learning observation and just using art as a tool for learning and keeping it part of the education in general. Now, who knows what school he was talking about, and that was also 30 years ago, so I don't know if, who knows if this is even accurate anymore, but
It was true. I mean, even schools like old colleges in England would be part of the curriculum.
Yeah.
Just to develop that skill.
God, and I just feel like it's a thing that has been lost here in the U.S. Like, look, whenever there's budget issues, the first thing that's cut is the art program. but I wonder what's lost when you do that, and not just people should know about art. I'm not just like it's, when you love a thing, it's easy to say everybody else should also love this thing.
Mm-hmm.
What I guess I'm wondering is what kind of basic knowledge is lost by not incorporating this whatsoever into your education.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of art classes are kind of geared more towards art history, which does connect the average person to history in general.
Yeah.
And when you lose art, you lose a lot of the art history, our human creative history.
Correct.
And then you lose an appreciation for creativity and humanity and moving forward. And I think it's all connected, but
yeah, you make a good point, because we take for granted, like for us now, learning means using a book or a tablet. At this point, an electronic tablet.
That's crazy to think about.
You're right, but there would have been a time when art was pivotal. Pivotal. That's not even a word. I needed an education.
Pivotal.
Pivotal. I grew up Catholic, right? And the iconography in the church is all, the history behind it is because people couldn't read, right? Like,
yeah.
So I guess I don't know. I'm not advocating for people to be illiterate and have to teach them everything through pictures, but.
Yeah, we don't want to regress that much.
No. But art used to be a big part of getting educated.
Yeah.
And now it feels like it's not a part of it, but it's treated like a superfluous. Like you just don't. Why even bother?
Yeah, it's treated as useless.
Yeah.
Well, in a lot of ways.
And then you end up with somebody complaining that someone beheaded an angel.
Yeah.
Because they don't know any better.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, like to your point, everyone, but the gentle folk of olden times, women were more prized when they were more learned.
Yeah.
They could draw as well as sew, as well as and my point there is just that the more you have been exposed to, art included, the more learned you can be.
Correct.
Because it's just another facet of the human experience.
Yeah, and just it teaches observation. Like,
yeah,
I've talked in the past on the show about doing a portrait during summer in Greece, and people could just walk in the room and go, "Hey, that nose is too long." Like, there was a guy literally was a carpenter maker. Wow, I really can't speak today. A carpenter and a cabinet maker. My God, that was difficult. And so no art training directly, but he spotted a proportional issue.
Right.
Immediately that me, the trained artist, had missed.
Well, I wonder if that's you're talking about being in Europe and people seeing that, and I'm wondering if that's partly because Europe and other countries are surrounded by art.
Yeah, I think it is.
Art in buildings, art in, statues, art in fountains, art in the streets,
art in grandma's house?
Art in grandma's house.
Yeah.
The infrastructure of society is so much more artistic and aesthetic.
Yes.
And America doesn't really have that old of a history in terms of the colonialization forward. And we kind of Europeans obliterated the art of the people who were here before, completely
Correct.
just wiping that off the face of the equation.
And we don't need this.
No, and even if we have some statues around in center square, the center of towns, they're war statues.
Yes.
It's we worship war, not art.
Yes. Yeah, God, the use of art to commemorate war, you're right, it's almost what the church was for the Renaissance is now. We're joking, but I knew a cartoonist who literally worked for, I don't know, it was the Stars and Stripes, the one military newspaper / magazine.
Oh, okay.
Doing a comic strip, or rather a series of comic books just to commemorate certain events or people. So you're right. Oh man, that's a bummer.
Isn't that a bummer?
Yeah.
And it's the statues are all old white dudes looking pissy.
Yeah.
With swords.
Yeah, and if you don't stick to that, there's folks that will get mad at you for like ignoring their history.
Yeah, I am not well traveled in America by any means, but I strongly doubt that there's a center of a town or a city that has like a massive fountain with a bunch of gods and
Yes.
sirens and
Correct.
you
Oh,
know.
for Philadelphia.
They have
Yeah, so in Rittenhouse Square,
That's
there's
great.
a big fountain with some, but that's an old city.
That's an old city.
Yeah, yeah. So
And it wasn't spread all around.
true, you're right. It's not truly an American thing. And I said the joke about Grandma's house sort of tongue in cheek because literally when the art school I went to, they had a campus in Rome, and at the time there was like literally a Caravaggio sitting in some old lady's house, and if you caught her in a good mood, evidently she'd let you in. It was like above her mantle.
Wow.
And she'd let you in to look at it.
That's great.
Yeah. So we don't. I mean, people will have old things in their homes, which tend to be more like artifacts, like some old piece of furniture or something like that. It's not usually a Caravaggio or something that's like very important to art history.
Yeah, and moving forward, I mean, if the olden days were steeped in art and living around art, then the new days are really doing away with that more and more.
Yeah.
And I mean, the only people who can really afford original works of art in their mansions are the 1%.
Yeah. They're definitely ruining it. I mean, the idea of art. I mean, look, we all need patrons, and I'm not saying people who can afford to buy art are terrible, but when it's bought and locked up and no one else can experience, that's a loss, right? Like.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I do think that, to your point, I think humanity on the whole is losing something of, dare I say, of our soul, of our human soul.
Yeah.
We're losing art and art education and the practice of observation through drawings.
Yes. By the way, if Mairin-taj's voice sounds like she's struggling, it's because of the pose she's in. She's
My
okay.
neck's a little strained right now.
Yeah. But no, I agree. I think there's a loss in not looking at things for a very long.
Yeah.
And that's not everybody's. As a culture, that's not every individual's fault. As a culture, we're speeding everything up, right? And so even when you see people at museums, they're often like stopping at a painting for 5-10 seconds and then moving on, about as long as they would spend on looking at it on Instagram or something, which is too bad.
Yeah, the shortening of the attention span has not helped.
Yes.
Mm.
So I guess my complaint started out with, and hopefully it didn't come off like I was just making fun of this person, but not knowing a part of your art history, and then sort of making grand assumptions based on the little bit you do know. But is the fix making everybody draw? And maybe it's not. Maybe it's not feasible. But I don't know that we can engage with art in a realistic way. Because look, I don't expect anybody. I didn't want to sit through art lectures, frankly. Right? Like there were times when I was ready to just doze off. So I'm not saying everybody should take an art history class, but at the very least, I feel like if you engage with things and look at things, it expands your ability to know about your culture and yourself.
Yeah, and even your options as a person.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to make a habit necessarily of citing my Waldorf background, but
no, that's good.
Once again, this has stuck with me my whole life and informed my course as an artist in general. But I was in not an art class. I was in a class. I don't think it had anything to do with art actually, but one of my teachers at Waldorf was talking, and she said something like, if you want to be good at art, if you you want to improve your skills as a creative person, the number one thing you have to pay attention to is observation.
Correct.
She said, like, you have to learn how to see and to pay attention. And
That's incredible. Like, you were just a kid, right? Like,
yeah.
This is just.
I think, I'm like picturing the room I was in. I think I was in 6th or 7th grade.
My God. Can you imagine? That's magical stuff. Like telling a kid that young, hey, just learn to look at things.
And like, I don't know how the rest of my class received that, but for me it was just, it was like, it wasn't a lightning moment, and because, in the sense that, you know, I had never thought of that before, because I've always been just naturally just a very like quiet, observant person, but it was just like affirming kind of what I personally experienced in life, like, hey, pay attention and then you'll see more, you know?
Yeah.
And so I've just carried that with me forever, and I think that is at the heart of being a creative, tuned in, like, aware and attentive person.
God, I want to find that teacher and hug her.
I know, she was great. I think it was my teacher, Ms. Ziner. Ms. Ziner, if you're listening, thank you.
Yes, because I would have killed for advice like that. I mean, I got one bit of advice from a teacher who just said, because she saw me essentially doing the like old, I'm going to draw a contour thing, the little kid version, and she showed me how to draw a rabbit using shapes.
Oh,
and
nice.
I became like obsessive about constructive drawing, which is a subject for another class or session.
All the classes.
Yeah. And I would have killed for her to have said, also just stop and look.
Just stop and look and watch, and not even when you're drawing, but because that's kind of what she was saying in terms of what I understood at the time was she was just talking about, like, not even as you're actively drawing, but just living life, like just look around, pay attention, just watch things, see things, and I love how that. I obviously paraphrased her. I don't even remember the exact sentence she used, but that type of statement was specific, but also general enough that, like, you can take away from it whatever lesson you need.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah. Even if you weren't art inclined.
Yeah. It can just be an insightful point.
It's really an incredible thing to teach a kid.
Yeah. And to that kind of our theme, like, I think that is useful wisdom to anyone.
Right.
Just like I think we seem to both be sort of saying drawing or doing something artistic is useful to everyone.
Well, I think specifically anything, because, you know, I think when people think of art, they add the word craft, so they mean crocheting and all those things, and they're all valid. I'm not saying anything that slows your hand and mind down, I think is healthy for the culture in general.
Absolutely.
But I think drawing is a specific thing that forces you to, like, because we all look at things and then move on.
Yeah.
Drawing is the only thing I know of, and obviously painting, anything related to it, where it forces you to really, really look at the thing.
Yeah.
And Christ, how many of our problems could be solved if people just, you know, looked at someone for a little longer than a few seconds and then made a determination of their worth or value, and not just people, but anything in life, going back to this person with someone decapitated an angel thing, right? Like, if you stop for 10 seconds and go and said, oh, you know, that kind of looks not like an angel.
Yeah. Or even just, wait a minute, I don't really know what that thing is. What is that?
Correct.
What is that?
Correct.
That is what observation could be boiled down to, arguably, like, what is this thing I'm looking at?
What is it? I should write this down. What is this thing?
That's funny.
No. We're gonna write a book of philosophy of just the stuff Mairin-taj said. No, that's exactly right though, right? Like, what the hell are you looking at? Take a second to think about it, and if you don't know, go look it up.
Yeah, right. Like, just acknowledge that you might not have all the answers. Person who thought it was a decapitated angel.
So we're at about 25 minutes.
All right. Well, that was a couple 3 minutes. Do you want to do some fives?
Yeah. Let's do one and see how that goes.
Okay.
especially these folks that are like quick to like this particular person was obviously quick to be offended.
Yes. Well, because we all know that we love to be offended.
Yes. So if you feel like, my God, if you feel like you, and maybe they're not even self-aware enough to be thinking in these terms, but I just feel like if you're going through life angry and offended all the time, that can't feel good.
No.
And what if you just said, I want to work on this? Like,
Yeah.
You don't care about the rest of the world. Everybody can go to hell. You just want to work on yourself.
Yeah.
It just feels like a good way to fix that.
I think so, and that of course will just inherently benefit your experiences.
And everybody around you.
Yeah.
Right? Because imagine who this person must have a loved one out there that's like offending them every few minutes. And I think, being observant in the way that we're talking about is a practice.
It absolutely is. I think, and that's something else that my teacher, just sort of making that observation she did, was was also useful, and just like you have to just do it as you live life.
Yeah. Coming back to your comment about the military, whenever I hear anybody talking about observation and being observant, it's always in the like discussing those military terms. Like they'll talk about Jason Bourne and from the action movies and situational awareness.
Oh,
and
really?
I'm like, oh, you mean just paying attention to your surroundings, you dipshit? You're not situational awareness.
We don't need any fancy terms here.
Yeah, I don't need to dart my eyes around like a psychopath and go, there's a guy there, he's got brown shoes, there's a woman coming, like, you know what I mean? Just fucking...
Quick, 3,
Yeah.
19, 21.
But whenever I would hear that term, or they would show those, like, those movies where the guy's, spying everybody around him, and I'm like, dude, there's a guy in a cafe right now doing that, or a girl in a cafe, like, you're not a badass because you pay attention. Like, that's how we're supposed to live life.
Yes, that's a very big fundamental aspect of like just survival.
Yes.
You know, just being alive. That's so funny to me what you say about that. I mean, maybe that's partly why people have a kind of weird thing, a revulsion or a discomfort around the concept of observations. Maybe people are just like, I don't want to be a creeper who's like Jason Bourning it up over here.
Or the opposite. I mean, the receiver of that, do people get uncomfortable if they think you're sizing them up?
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, whenever I do sketch in like a public place, I try to be real clandestine about it.
Oh, sure.
Just because I feel weird. And I know it's an innocent practice, but like, I don't want anybody coming up and going like, hey man, what's your problem? Why are you staring at my girl or something? Or me or whatever.
I hope that doesn't happen much. I mean, from my experience in drawing in an observational way in public, most people are usually just like fascinated. Like, what you doing over there? But I guess, and I'm not trying to be a downer here, but to come back to the whole theme of observation, it's like, well, if you just observed me for a minute,
you'd know. Yeah.
You don't need to really ask.
Yeah.
You could observe that I'm drawing and I'm kind of keeping to myself because I want to focus and observe and draw
and it's a thing that we're just not used to seeing. And going back to your comparison with Europe, like you'll go to any square in any European city and there's probably a guy or a girl set up drawing people like not caricatures but actually drawing portraits.
That's right.
For money.
Yeah.
Right? And we don't bat an eye. We just go, oh, isn't that so cool that happens there? But if you did it here, it would be, people would be like avoiding you like you were a Jehovah's Witness or something, trying to, preach the word of God or something to them.
Maybe this is insignificant, but I just had this light bulb moment of maybe that's because, like, again, where you're saying people are okay with us seeing people doing that, it's like, because it's evident that they're surrounded by something very artistic and aesthetic. So of course they want to.
This is true.
And then around here, I don't know, maybe people just don't have an aesthetic sense.
Yeah, it feels odd. It's there was a an experiment where he took, and I can't remember the guy's name, but it was some world-class violinist, and he set up in like a subway.
Oh, nice.
And this is a guy where it takes, it's like he's selling $500 tickets to see him live.
Yeah.
He sets up in a subway, and they just record people just passing right by him. And the quality is still there.
Oh, sure, right.
But there wasn't the right space, and people were just not willing to stop and hear it,
Wow.
And so
yeah, because they're in a space designed for going somewhere, speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, I'm going to mention Greece again. A lot of their subways, so it's Athens, right? So every time you stick a shovel in the dirt, you find something old.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And so every time they were, digging a new subway, they were finding some old ruins.
Wow.
So you'll go on a subway, and there'll be a literal exhibit next to your platform.
Wow, yeah.
And so I think you're right in that it's just everywhere there.
Yeah.
And so you don't think anything of it, where in the U.S., it's all commerce. It's all, I got to get to work. I don't have time for beautiful music.
Right. Right. Everything. I mean, this is just a personal thing for me, but there's so much modern design is like so sterile.
Oh God.
There's so much like fluorescent lights and cubicles everywhere.
Even if it's an art school. I mean, the art school I was at as a kid, we used to all make fun of the painting studio because they built essentially a box, nothing fancy, with an angled roof so that it would get sun. Only they pointed the building the wrong way, so we never got any sun in that studio.
Oh no!
It's like you can't even get that right.
Yeah.
The one thing you thought about in terms of this place being made for art.
Building a building and not paying attention to the sun.
To the sun.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing. That really drives the whole theme home.
Exactly. This dude needed to take a drawing class.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was a dancer. That's come up before. I was a dancer for about 15 years. Almost went to Juilliard, but went into visual arts instead. And that's something I notice all the time just with my ballet training. It's like so many people are so unaware of their space next to other people's spaces.
Yeah.
People's in ballet, it's like everyone has a circle.
Oh my God, that's true.
So it's like everyone's circles can cooperatively move in and around each other in a harmonious way, but most people move their circles in a very non-harmonious way.
Yeah.
And it's like just that awareness in itself, I can't tell you how frustrated I get with slowpokes in crowded places. It's just like, come on.
Yeah, I've seen you, but I'm so glad you mentioned it because I've seen you do it in class. Where I am notoriously, so if you're not aware, when you're doing a long pose, you're supposed to tape down where the toes are. So you put a piece of tape here, or maybe a tape on the chair here, and you mark off where everything is so that the model can get back into that pose. And I'm terrible at, even after all these years of teaching figure drawing, I just forget to bring tape and everything.
Yeah.
And I've seen you immediately, I look around as if it never even occurred to me. It's like you're looking at your circle and go, this foot was, 6 inches from the outer edge of my circle, and you put everything back where it was.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's just, it's all about observation, people.
Yeah. My God, you're like the art Jason Bourne.
Please don't. I don't want to have shaky cameras.
Those kind of movies. I've never seen actually more than the first one. I couldn't take it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The shaky cameras gets way worse.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yikes.
It's hard to watch.
Yeah. I'm also, it's like, how many times can you watch a guy beat up other guys?
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun, but I saw you do it already, dude. It's fine. I'm good.
Yeah, I know. Let's have movies about other things.
I'm sorry for any Jason Bourne fans out there. I don't mean any harm. I'm sorry. But it is funny how it's treated like some superpower, that he can pay attention and remember where things were and look at things. Oh my God, his training must have been incredible.
And just think, we can all have that superpower.
Yes. Yeah.
It just takes some work and some attention.
Take a drawing class.
Yeah. Oh, so true. Even with little tricks in drawing class that help those kinds of observational skills, when you do, have you ever done that thing where you look at a thing for a bit and then you can't look at it anymore and then you have to draw it from memory?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like those observational memory.
Yeah, I will
skills.
make myself do that just because, you know, my work calls for me to have to draw things from memory all the time.
Right.
So I'll make myself, like, it's usually something I hate drawing.
Did I not put the timer on?
You may not have.
Oh,
That's okay.
that was about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think we're done. And it's a good exercise for sure.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, again, I don't know if this is true. Same art professor, he said that there was an art school in England where they had the figure on one floor and the studio on another.
Oh, yeah.
So you had to go up, look at the figure, try to memorize as much as you could, come down, draw. And then
Yeah.
you drew until you ran out of juice and then you went back up.
Yeah.
Which sounds like,
It's hardcore.
yeah, that's insane. But you can see how that would build a kind of visual memory that is amazing. So, all right.
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything?
I just remembered another stuff we did at Waldorf.
Really?
More stuff like we would practice symmetry by like drawing a line in a page, and then our teacher would draw the design on one side of the line,
Oh,
and we'd
wow.
have to create the same design on the other side, like flip it as
Oh my God.
perfectly
Yeah,
as
yeah,
possible.
yeah.
We did that all the time, or like memory games. Like we would often the teacher would like recite a poem or something, like section by section, and then we'd have to.
That's incredible. Wow. Like ancient,
Yeah.
coming back. Wow, look, full circle. Ancient Greece with the, you know, reciting ancient poems and
Yep.
the memory of those guys. There's a famous story, and I can't remember the guy's name, but they had one of these poets. You know, rich people would hire these poets to come and say the I don't know, the Odyssey from memory
Right. That's
during
right.
a party,
Yeah.
and a building collapsed. They killed everybody at the dinner,
Oh.
and this guy was able to tell, based on where they were sitting at the table, he had memorized who everybody was at the table, so
Yeah.
he could tell everybody that smushed jelly was your Uncle
Oh
Al.
my God.
The one next to him was your Aunt Bertha, or whatever. It went around the table.
Yeah.
Now, who knows? Maybe it's all bullshit, and he made it up since they were all smushed anyway. But
Uh-huh.
it was a practice that has
Yeah.
been lost to us. Now, you know,
Absolutely.
does memory? Do we need that kind of memory anymore? I don't know. And there's lots of people who just can't do that. But I think if you're observant, at least you can sort of buy into the world that you're inhabiting,
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
get like tripped up so easily.
Right. I agree.
So, good show.
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome,
That was fun.
awesome. So thank you to everybody out there who watched. Just a reminder, you get this show a week to 10 days early. I didn't know if you were going to go over
No, I want to get my robe, but I can't.
Sorry, yeah, I was worried. You get the show a week to 10 days early on Patreon, on either of our Patreons. I'll link that in the descriptions. And thank you again to the folks at Curio for supporting the show.
Yes.
It's amazing. They're so great. I'll put a link to their store also in the descriptions. And thank you so much, Mairin-taj. Had a great show.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.